if it's like too much. Oh, we're live. Is that too... Is the lighting weird?
Oh.
Crazy hair and stuff. There, that's better. Okay. So I'm going to share our live link. Nobody's on yet, so that's good. I don't know what I just did with your folder, but or with the paper.
I'm gonna look for it.
We'll have to find it. It's fine. We don't have to find it right now. I think I'll remember just from writing it down because that's why I like to write stuff down because then I like make a memory. But we'll see.
I have Watusi stuck in my teeth.
Watusi stuck in your teeth. That's some good shit. All right, I'm going to share this YouTube link so that we can put it on the swipe up part. And then, mother effer. Is there a way to share it from here? Yeah, I think there is.
You're asking the wrong person.
I know, I don't really know. I don't know about these shenanigans. Whoever is on, be patient with us because we're still figuring some stuff out. I think if I put this here, that will save. Use. Yes, I started to do like an outline, but I'm like, you know what? I don't think we need it. Okay.
So many emails.
I know. I bet you're so overwhelmed. Did you work it all while you were out there?
I tried, but service was so spotty.
Yeah. Well, I know. I was like, this is weird. I'm not hearing from her.
No, it was. Yeah, I didn't even get to call the kids.
Oh, you didn't
very often.
Dang. Okay, so I've got. We can hit. Well, maybe not yet. Let me just put this on here on my story so people can swipe up. Yeah, we need to talk about the tattoo stuff, like not on air.
Yeah,
because I have stuff to say about that.
We were talking about that on the drive down. And I was actually texting Carson about it too, because I was asking him about his guy and stuff. And yeah.
Gotcha. Who's his guy?
He used to go to Fredo, but I think he's going to Fredo's apprentice now or something like that.
Okay.
Kyle is his name. I think.
Okay. YouTube live. Finesseology. This is going to be like the most plain Jane post ever. But it is what it is. At least they can swipe up if they want to. Maybe. How does this work?
I have no idea.
They always change the swipe up feature all the time. There we go. IG. Okay. So now people should be able to swipe up on my story. Cool. Okay. Are we ready? Oh, thank you.
Ready.
Let's start this guy. We're already live on there.
I need to do something with my bangs. I'm not loving them.
I had a dream that I got bangs too.
Did you?
And they wouldn't like stay on my forehead. They would like be up. I was always upset about it. I feel like that's something that would happen to me. Hey guys, we are live on Podbean and on YouTube. If you want to watch us be idiots, go to our YouTube, the Finesseology Podcast. I have to say, so many people think our podcast is called the Finesseology Podcast.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember who it was.
There's been like 7 people
at the very beginning when we started. They're like, "How do you spell it? FIT?" And I'm like, "No, it's not fitness. It's finesse."
Yeah, which I get. Like people, misunderstanding that because we are in the fitness world, but
not anymore.
I know, like, kind of. But it's finesse. It's finesse, guys. Okay, so how are you?
I'm so tired and I'm so ornery.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
You don't seem ornery to me.
Oh, so I woke up this morning and I was like, I could literally any minute just like throw a big adult tantrum right now.
I've been there for sure. So you just went to Texas?
Yes, we just got back from Texas last night at 11 p.m. and it was the funnest time I've had in a long time.
Really?
Like it was a blast.
Okay, but let's break down from beginning to end. So you took a freaking road trip. How long was the road trip?
Yeah, so to get from here to Marfa is it's about 16 and a half hours. And then once we get into Marfa, their ranch is like another hour or so out of Marfa. And so, yeah, once we got to the gate, it was like another 45 minutes in the truck to drive to the house. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so Colby and I left on Wednesday at about 2:00, and he was a champ. He drove, like I was planning on driving part of it, but we drove all the way through. So we got to El Paso, and that's where his parents, they flew in and they stayed in a hotel in El Paso.
Oh, I didn't know they flew in. I just figured they drove separately.
No, because so his mom wouldn't be able to sit in a car that long. Oh, gotcha. And so, yeah, they flew. And I took maybe like a 15-minute nap. But we got to, can I tell you how disgusting New Mexico is?
Is that bad?
So Utah's beautiful. Mm-hmm. Colorado's beautiful. Right when we crossed the border from Colorado to New Mexico, you could just tell the road. It was like boom, boom.
Really?
Yeah. And then I'm shaking the camera. And then as we get on this like long stretch of freaking highway, the mountains are gone. It's just desolate. Oh, sad. And I'm trying to like, you know, when your eyes are just so tired that you're like, I can't keep them awake. Yeah. So I'm like, I looked at him. I'm like, are you going to be okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm like, okay, I just have to take a quick nap. And I may have tried to sleep for like a good 45 minutes, but I was awake every like second. Oh, we'd hit bumps. The wind was blowing. Like I just could not sleep. So I may have like accumulated 15 minutes or so.
That's better than nothing.
And then no gas stations were open in fucking New Mexico. We peed on the side of the road a couple times.
They weren't open.
No, they were not open. And the one gas station we got to that was open that had restrooms, the restrooms were across the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And there were transients just like all lining around the bathroom. Yeah. And I'm like, I'll pass.
Yeah.
So yeah, nothing was open in New Mexico. We're like, this is a fucking shit.
Yeah, that sucks.
But yeah, we finally get to El Paso and we get our second wind. We rearranged the vehicle because we were seriously like loaded down. We had, I want to say, I think 4 big coolers. We had a huge tote of all of our hunting stuff. We had another huge tote of more hunting stuff. We had 2 guns, our bow case, and then the 2 dog kennels. So the big dog stayed in the back of the truck. And then the little dogs we had inside the cab. But with Colby's parents getting in, we couldn't do that. Right. So I'm like, they can sit on my lap. It's fine. And then they would not settle down. They would not stay. And then I'm trying to like shove them by my feet. And Brig is barking at me. And I'm trying to get him to be quiet. Colby's yelling at me. He's like, they're not going to be quiet. Colby's parents are trying to get the dog. I'm like, she's severely allergic to animals. I'm like, gosh. So it's just a cluster. And I'm like getting irritated. And finally I realized I think Brig needs to shit.
Yeah.
So we pull over. We go to the bathroom. And then he was totally fine after that. So Colby held Brig and I'm holding Navy, and then she's leaking some bodily fluid all over me. And I'm like,
my gosh.
So I stink. We get to Van Horn to buy our tickets, our hunting tickets, our licenses. Oh my God, our hunting licenses. And I go in the bathroom and I'm like scrubbing my pants because I can just smell her. It was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, it's awful.
But yeah, so we get to the ranch and we meet up with one of the guides, and he's from South Africa.
Oh.
And he has this like strong South African accent. He wears like what you would think a guy on a safari would wear.
Interesting.
He was pretty cool. So he's known Colton's family. Colton met him when he was 10. So they went on a hunting trip to Africa when Colton was 10.
Oh my gosh.
And that's where Colton shot his first big game animal.
How
and
cool.
Stuart was their guide.
Nice.
I'm like, you got to go to Africa at 10 and shoot a big game
How
animal?
How amazing is that? That's
like,
amazing.
His dad's been a guide and a butcher, and he's traveled all over the place hunting.
How cool.
But yeah, so we'd start driving in the gate, and you're looking around and you're like, this is absolutely amazing. Like, you really feel like you're on a safari. There's animals all over the goddamn place. Like, you're seeing animals that you didn't think that you were going to see.
Right.
Like, we saw a bunch of aoudad already running around. We saw zebra running around.
She sends me pictures of zebras, and I'm like, there's zebras in Texas?
Yeah.
I was like mind blown.
There's so many things. And we saw a couple more. They have a high fence area, and on their high fenced area is this castle, like legit a castle. And we later find out that the people that own this property are from Germany, and they moved over like 40 years ago. And the husband stays in this castle. It took like 6 years to build. And then as we're driving, it took us 45 minutes to get to the house. And when you pull into the house, there's this area that's fenced off that has a whole bunch of javelinas. And the guide's like, we can't shoot those javelinas because those are her pets.
Oh.
There's like 50 of them.
Oh my gosh.
And then the wife lives at this house. It's like, it's all gated in and everything, so animals can't get in and out. And she lives there. And then the house that we stayed at was just right down the hill from her.
Okay.
So it's like a weird scenario that they live separately.
Yeah.
They never get out.
Huh.
And he's like, they never get out. And as we're driving our last day, the old man was driving around in a Ford F-150 with the top cut off.
Oh.
And he has 3 wiener dogs with him.
Oh my gosh.
And you just hear the guide go, fuck. And I look over at him and I'm like, assuming this is probably the owner because he's an old guy and he starts talking and he has an accent. And the guide made it weird. He like didn't introduce us to the owner or anything. And he was just awkward. It was just weird.
Interesting.
But so anyway, so we get there the first day and they're showing us our rooms. Each of us have our own room. So there's Colby's parents had one room.
Mm-hmm.
Colton and Gary, his dad, had one room. And then there were 2 other guys. So Josh came down with Colton. That's Colton's friend. And then we met another guy from Colorado. He came down. And we met him in, I think, Van Horn.
And just to remind our listeners, if they caught, which episode was that? It was, we had an episode with Colton on it with her husband, Colby. And,
with the hound hunting.
Yeah, so we've had Colton. So when she references Colton, that's who it is.
I didn't realize he's been a guide for 12 years.
It's crazy.
So crazy. This year is going to, so he's having a baby in April. And
he's such a humble person. Like he doesn't put this stuff out there.
No, he doesn't need the recognition.
Yeah.
But he just got done with this trip, and then the child will be born in, I think, March or April. And then he leaves for 4 weeks to go guide in Alaska, then comes back for a week, goes back to Alaska for a black bear hunt, comes back for a week, and then I think goes back somewhere else and guides.
That's
so
crazy.
When he goes to the ranch, he'll be going to the ranch and guiding. But so yeah, anyways, they showed us all to our rooms, and each room had their own bathroom, which was really nice. It wasn't very clean though. I mean, it was like a typical, these guys are guys, or the guides are guys. Yeah. So I'm like, I would assume they wouldn't really clean anything, but I'm like, I'd rather sleep outside, but we're good.
Yeah.
So, the guy that met us at the gate, he was kind of pushing like, since everybody's here now, we're going to go on the Watusi hunt today. So we had half of Wednesday to hunt, then half of Thursday to hunt, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for full days.
It seems like you were gone forever.
It felt like I told Colby as we were driving home yesterday, I'm like, I feel like we've been gone for a month.
Yeah, it felt like that to me.
Yeah, it was a long time. But so he was pushing the Watusi hunt on Thursday, the half day. And so we get, I think, Josh and Ty, those were the other 2 guys that came. They went with one of the guides and they went and hunted their audads. And audads are a type of a sheep.
I'm going to get a picture. How do you spell it?
Auodad. Or Auodad. So they went off, and then we took 2 trucks. We had Stuart, Colton, and his dad in one, and then our guide, and then
audads. I'm showing a picture of an audad.
Yeah, those are audads. So they have this piece of fur that comes down their neck. And then they have chaps around their legs. They're really pretty. They're beautiful.
So cute. Oh, this one's running.
So all of us just get in a truck, and there was a group of audad by the hay barn, and the one that he had sent a picture to us, it's like a typical, not audad, Watusi. It's a typical Watusi where it comes out and then curls back in, and then it goes out like this. So these ones that are on here, I think, are bred with longhorn, so they're typically not Watusi cattle Africa or something like that.
Okay.
So they're native to Africa. But he reminded me of Maleficent, like the way her horns are.
I love
so
these
typically
horns.
They're more centered like this, and they'll wrap around and then point out towards the back. So those are standard like Watusis from Africa.
Crazy. So here's a bunch of them. Hopefully they can, people that are watching live.
They look like a longhorn, just a lot bigger. So there was a bunch at the hay house, and the one that he had showed me, the biggest one, was there. And I'm like, like I want it to be an experience. Like, I'm not saying that they're not wild animals, but they do. I mean, it's still a ranch.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, we do have another one. He's a little bit more wild. We'll go find him. So we're driving around, and we drive down into this like river bank. Like, it's a really pretty river area.
Mm-hmm.
We drive down there, and the Watusi is with another Watusi, a smaller female, and then 2 moo cows, 2 black moo cows.
Oh, cute.
And they're like, we don't know where these moo cws came from. Like I think they just
They're
like
friends.
traveled from the front of from the ranch.
That's cute.
So we make a game plan. We get the wind. We get all of that, and me, Colby, and Stuart, we start hiking. And we hike around the river. We hike down the river up around these rocks to get on top so that we could see where they're at. Well, we finally get close enough, but his limit was like 60 yards. So we'd get 60 yards, he'd walk a little bit. We'd get 60 yards, he'd walk a little bit. So we couldn't really get on him. And we were playing like freaking cat and mouse with this Watusi. So he would go up the hill. We'd drive up the hill, try to push him. He'd go down the hill. So we'd drive down the hill, try and push him. He'd go up this fucking hill. So
was he fast or no?
It was just so.
It's just like
every plant on this ranch is meant to try and kill you.
Oh.
Everything had spikes. Everything. Like my arms, like it doesn't look bad today.
No, I can see.
But my arms were covered. My legs from my thighs down are covered from these plants.
So grouchy.
So they're called cat claws. And they legit, like if you open up a cat's paw, like her claw, and you see how it hooks, like it's thick here and it goes down. That's exactly what it looks like. It hooks into your skin. And like I had moments where it hooked into my skin and my skin was pulling up because I was stuck. Like everything has spines. Everything has like anything pokey. So you're trying to walk through this shit and it's catching on you. Like it's all over the place. And so it was just hard to hike and like maneuver. So if we got in thick stuff, we had to just like back out and figure out where to go.
Yeah.
So finally we get to the bottom. Clay, our guide, is at the top near the fence, and he walked this way to push them, and they kind of circled back around and they were going back to the road. So we hurry and get back in the truck, drive up the road to where they're getting pushed so that we can cut them off. And there's like an open area. So it's flat. There's a little hill that comes down to just a flat area and then to the road. So we see them coming. Stuart sees them coming. So we get near this like cactus bush, and it played out so perfect. Like so perfect. So all of a sudden we see him coming, and we arranged a couple areas so that I knew like when they got to a certain area, I could just set it to my pin and pull back. Well, he's walking, and then Stuart like turns and he's like, they're at so-and-so yards. And as he's talking, the Watusi stops. But I don't think the Watusi could see us, but he heard it. So then he walks a couple more feet, and Stuart's like, he says so yards.
Yeah.
And the Watusi stops. So he stops there, but I'm not pulled back yet. And he's perfectly broadside at this point. So when he ducks his head again, I pull back, and he I think he may have like seen a little bit of something. But so as I pulled back, he turns, and I had no shot. So I kept my bow pulled. I kept a hold of it, and I watched him go, and he went to about 40 yards and then went behind this bush. And it was the coolest thing. Like, I think this was like one of the coolest things about this. Like, it was a perfect scenario. Like I could have had a great shot, but as he's walking away, he's using those horns to push the cows. So he pushes them and then gets them to go a certain direction, and then goes around them again and pushes them. And at this point, they start taking off. We could not find him anywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Mind you, this animal has like 18 to 20 inch like wide horns. Yeah. And they're huge, and we could not fucking find him. We hiked our asses off.
Wow.
So after that, I don't think we did any more hunting after that. We get back to camp, or back to the house, and Ty and Josh had gotten a ewe aoudad, which is a female aoudad. And I think that's all that they ended up getting that day. I don't remember. So then the next morning we wake up, and they're like, we need to go back and get the Watusi. We need to get the Watusi done. And I was like, all right, we'll get the Watusi done. So we hiked our asses off that morning.
This is Friday.
This is Friday.
Okay, Friday.
And at this point, like, I'm trying to think. Yeah, it was on Friday. So we went back to that spot where we last saw the Watusi, and we could not find him. So we saw some aoudad on the hillside. So we hike up the mountain, and we're spotting all these audads. And our guy, like, I don't want to put our guy down, because I mean, he was a great guy, but I think the typical people that they get on this ranch are people that don't want to hike, and people that just want to come and drink and shoot shit off the road. And so we get out of the truck, and this is kind of where Colby said something like, right where we drove down the riverbank, we got to a dead end and we had to turn around because we were looking for the Watusi and we couldn't find him. And Colby's like, where we turned around, we should start hiking the mountain from there. And Clay's like, no, we're not going to do that. So we take the road and we start hiking, and he wants to hike across this like vast desert, and you can't see the hills going up and down. And there is just a sea of cat claw. And he's standing there and he didn't really say much. Like he would think to himself. And so it kind of bothered me because he'd stop and he'd be like, and you wouldn't really hear what he had to say and he wouldn't communicate with you. And it really bothered me. And I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, what do you see so that we can have a game plan too? So we get out, we hike like 100 yards, 200 yards, and we end up walking back to the truck. And I could just tell that Colby's dad's kind of getting deflated. And we end up taking the truck, which I don't even know why we didn't fucking do this in the first place. The road keeps going. Yeah. Like, why didn't we take the road in the first place all the way up the hillside? Like, come on now. Yeah. So we take the road up the hillside. We hike up this hill and we see like a grundle of Aoudad and some really good rams. But he didn't want to fucking hike. He's like, well, we won't get back till dark. And I'm like, we don't fucking care if we don't get back till dark. Like, we want to hike. We want to get those rams. And where we were at was a perfect scenario. Like, it was perfect. And so we hiked down the mountain because he didn't want to do that. And Colby's dad's like, yeah, just my luck or something like that. And I'm like, I just need to get this Watusi hunt done because I know his dad's going to get deflated. Like, we just need to get this done. Yeah. So we end up going around where we were at. So here's where we were at with the riverbank, and you take the road around, and between where we went from point A to point B, there's this huge box canyon. And so Clay thought that maybe he had gone in that box canyon, the Watusi. So we go to the other end of the box canyon and we start hiking through it to see if we can find him. And I fucking love box canyons. It was the coolest thing ever. Like, I think it was like a dying place for Watusis because you walk through it. It's like the flat riverbanks and there's big old you'd see the dead heads all over the place. I think we saw 4 of them. You can't take dead heads. We took some antlers, but I don't know if they would let us take the dead heads. Like, he never mentioned that we could take them. I'd be like, let me take one of these. But it was I think we put 22. Bet you. What? I bet you both have lovely box canyons. No, you stop that. Who is that? I don't know. Hey, there's Valerie. So I think we put in, I think my thing said like 21,000 steps that day. We hiked this box canyon and it was like a good 1.5 miles or more through the whole thing. And there we saw a cute little bat on the wall just hanging out in like a swallow's nest. There were skunks. We saw cat poop. So we know that there's like bobcats and mountain lions in there. Like, it was the coolest thing ever. Awesome. Just walking through it. And there's like, the rocks are really smooth and there's like these puddles of like red water. And it was beautiful. But long story short, we never ended up finding the Watusi. So on our way to that box canyon, there were 2 Watusis that were laying down. And one of them, the one that I ended up shooting, I was like, yeah, since we couldn't find him, I'm like, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, we just need to get this done. Yeah. So I'm like, I'll take him. So we get out of the truck and Colby and I go, and I felt, so all my other like archery hunts, I haven't felt in control. And at this one I did because I wasn't following Colby. Yeah. I was in the lead. Every time the Watusis would take off and jog, I would sprint to a next location to where I could get a good shot. And it ended up working fantastic. So we get to our spot where I have a great shot. And the Watusi standing broadside, it was perfect. And I go to pull back and Colby's like, no, don't pull back yet. I can't get the camera to work. And I looked at him, I was like, you fucking kidding me? He's like, no, you got to just let down right now. Let down. And I'm like, I can't keep letting down the bow. Like, it's one thing for me to pull the bow back. My shoulder feels fine. I can't let that fucker down. Right. So I let it down and he's trying to figure out, I guess the memory was full. So he's trying to delete videos as fast as he can. And I'm like, there's a perfect shot. If I lose this, I'm going to be pissed because we couldn't find the other Watusi. Right. Like, they're going to run away and I'm never going to find him. Yeah. So he finally is like, okay. And I ended up just pulling back and letting an arrow go. Yeah. And he didn't get the kill shot. Cause I'm like, I'm not waiting on you. Right. Like, it frustrated me. And Colton afterwards, he's like, I'm so pissed at you that you just didn't have self-control and wait. And I'm like, I'm not gonna wait. I'm not gonna wait. So my first shot, perfect. Like, I hit him perfect. Like, I double lunged him It was great. He ends up like, it was cool to watch. He was bucking and like kicking at the arrow, and he ended up breaking my arrow off.
Wow.
It went fletchings deep, which is really good. Like, afterwards we were talking to the guys when we had got back to camp, and he's like, they were talking about like my bow setup and everything. And Colby's telling him that I only shoot a 43-pound bow. And the guy's like, really? And he's like, well, what type of arrow? And he's like, it's a 510 arrow, 125 grain broadhead. And like, he's like telling him that my arrow drops like this much. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yes, I know that I don't shoot a freaking 60-pound bow. Like I was asking Colby about it. And he's like, yeah, some girls have setups of 60 pounds. And I'm like, I don't see how. Like, I'm fairly strong. Mm-hmm. Like, that's crazy to me. But anyways, the arrow goes in. It was perfect. And then shot another one, and just wanted to make sure that
is that why you shoot like a second one to make sure?
Yeah. Like you just keep putting stuff in them so that they just end up dying and not running away. You don't ever want a wounded animal.
Right.
So yeah, it was good.
I show it to our YouTube people.
Yes.
If we can. I know you haven't posted it yet. And I've been like, I'm like, I really want people to see it, but I know you got to post it. Are you going to post it?
Yeah, I'll post it.
I know some people are like weird about posting their animals sometimes, but I've seen you post before. So I was like,
no, yeah, I'll post it. I just haven't had a chance. And I was just like, I'm so tired.
So big.
It was awesome. Like, you think that we can start now. Oh, you're welcome. So you think that these animals are big. Like I was looking at the Watusi and I'm like, yeah, it's all right. Like, I don't think it's as big as like I was hoping for. And then you walk up on it and I'm like, that's some bitch.
How'd you fit that through the door?
That's some bitch. Like his belly was freaking huge. And we didn't leave really any meat. Like, so
I got to eat some today, and it's really good. So good.
So we called the other crew. Like, thankfully, Stuart had service, and Stuart and Colton and Gary come, and we had Colby's parents, and we just all get to work. And can I tell you how much more fulfilling it is to be a hunter? It's one thing to like kill an animal and know you're going to eat it. It's another to be able to give the animal its due justice by actually cutting it yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's
cool.
I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel more involved. Like I felt more involved. I felt more like this is my process. And so I was able to help skin it. I helped quarter it. Like Colby helped me with, it's so scary to quarter the back legs because the gut is right there. And if you puncture the guts, it'll like squirt in your face.
Ew.
So I was like really careful, but it kind of made me nervous, but I got to do the hind quarters and
wow. That's cool.
Yeah, we left pretty much nothing and hauled it all to the truck. I went and got whatever grass I could find because there's like hardly any grass right there, and did the little ceremony that we typically do. And it was awesome. We get back to camp and it was great.
That's really cool.
It was great.
Yeah. So she sent me, I was getting a tattoo, and she sent me this picture, and you're like, this picture doesn't do it justice. And I'm like, it's fucking huge. And then she sends me this picture I just showed you guys later, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Cause like to me, the first one, it looked huge, but I didn't have anything to compare it to.
Bad. But it's funny in this picture, like usually when people do like grip and grins, they're sitting like right behind the butt, and they're so far back so that they makes the horns look bigger. And me and Colby are squoze right up to those horns, and like, there's no alteration to that picture. That's what it actually looks like.
Amazing.
So we measured him, and from tip to tip, he's 64 and a half inches.
What is that? That's
so I'm 65 inches.
Okay. So
I'm 5'5".
So it's like the length of my body, maybe longer than my body.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then around each base is 18 inches. So I went to put my hand around it, and I touched my fingers, and I still had like that much gap.
Oh my gosh.
And then Colby measured him today. So from on the left, if you measure just the length of the individual horns, the left horn's 54 and the right horn's 53 inches.
So I was like, I walked right past it, but I was looking for it this morning, but then going out to see it, it's like even bigger.
It is.
Than you see imagine. In the picture. Yeah, it's huge.
The head is huge. Like, yeah, it was awesome.
So crazy and so cool.
So then the next day is like our death march. So Colton and his dad, the day I got my Watusi, Colton's dad got his aoudad, and he got the biggest one. I think it measured 32 inches and some change, and that's a freaking massive aoudad.
That's crazy.
It's a good one. But they went on a death march that day to get his aoudad. And Gary, he's been a guide and a hunter his whole life, and he's just been involved in everything. And he's getting older, and he had like a knee replacement, and he ended up having like an infection in his knee. And so like this guy is a freaking beast.
Yeah.
I was hiking behind him on the third day, and I'm like, you are an animal. I'm like, I know where Colton gets his hiking skills from, because you are an absolute animal.
That's
like,
so cool.
They just say, put your head down and just go. And I'm like, you're fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
But anyway,
awesome.
so the first day that we went to kill the aoudad on that mountainside, we're on the completely opposite end of it now. So if you think like, here's a line, we were at A and now we're at point B. And so where we started at A was just a short distance to the mountain. Where we started at B was a fucking treacherous freaking death march.
Oh my gosh.
So between all the down cat claws, between the rocks, like the place is covered in rocks. So you don't get a flat surface.
Yeah.
So we hike up this fucking mountain, and we're just hiking and hiking and hiking. And we see that aoudad on the mountainside, and they can see us. Like, we're 1,200 plus yards away, and you're looking through them through your binos. And one of them was standing on a rock just watching us. We're fucking 1,200 yards away.
Oh my gosh.
We're a half a mile away, and they can see us.
That's insane.
And so we're
cool.
hiking more, and we stop again. And one of the guides is like, you guys see the aoudads? And Colton's like, they fucking took off like 200 yards ago. Like, they can see us. They've left. So
wow,
we just keep hiking. Like, we hiked our fucking asses off. We finally get to the top of the mountain, and we take a break. And we noticed that our guide's like, he's been making our guide was on his phone like anytime he had service, he was on his phone the whole fucking time. And he was talking about, because he has a couple other ranches around, and he was talking about like getting his hunters hotel rooms. And he was like, he really wanted service. Like, he was always on his phone talking to people. And it just kind of seemed a little suspicious. Like, I didn't think anything of it until like we finally realized why. But so he was on his phone for a while, and we just sat there and we just waited it out for a little bit. And then we pack up and we start hiking again. We hike down this draw, and we hike back up the other side. And as we're hiking back up the other side, Stuart's in front of us, and he just friggin' drops. And he looks at everybody like he drops and he turns, and he's like telling everybody to get down. And so instantly, like, when you're hunting, like, you're always aware of the person in front of you.
Yeah.
And we all just drop where we're at.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's a fucking huge aoudad across the draw right here. And we're like, all right. So like in a split minute, it's funny how fast it happens. Like, we've been hiking for 5 hours.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the aoudad's like 175 yards away from us.
Gosh.
So we get Ryan up, they get him all set up. Colby's videotaping the kill shot. I'm videotaping Ryan, and he shoots, and great shot. He still had it dialed in for, I think, 400 yards or something like that. So it was a little high his first shot, but it was still good. And then he put another bullet in it, and it was perfect.
That's so cool.
The only guide that I really saw get their hands dirty was Stuart.
I don't understand that. They're getting paid so much.
So it makes me wonder if they know that they knew we were taxidermists, and they knew that we were avid hunters. Because we do all the pictures and everything with the aoudad, and Colton and Gary and Stuart end up leaving because Colton still needs his, and they go hike around where we had seen the aoudads the first day, and we're getting ready to cut the aoudad, and I get the hind leg, and I'm cutting the around the like the shin of the aoudad on the hind leg, and our guide's like, you don't need to worry about that. And I'm like, don't we want the hind quarters? Like, don't we want the meat? I'm like, we're not just going to leave fucking meat on the mountain.
Right.
And so I'm looking at him. I'm like, I think we want the meat. And I look over at Ryan. I'm like, you want the meat, right? And Ryan's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep cutting. Fuck.
What did he?
They don't take the meat off of them.
I've heard this before. Like, Dustin's talked to me a little bit about this before, where they don't, or they'll just like scrap so much of it. And he's like, why?
Yeah. So I guess aoudad might be a little like tougher. But we don't care. Like, there's always ways to cook it.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you can always put it into hamburger, mix it with pork fat, and get like a good meat. Like, we don't want to put it to waste. So it makes us wonder if like a lot of their hunters that go, that are like the quote unquote trophy hunters, or just want to be there because they're fucking men and they want to drink, if they just take like the back straps and leave.
Yeah, I don't know. That blows my mind.
So we didn't end up taking the front shoulders because that's where he had shot. And when you do that, it like obliterates. Yeah. And we wouldn't have been able to salvage much anyways from them, but we took the hindquarters, the back straps, the tenderloins, and whatever meat we really could get. But I was just like, no, we're not going to waste. I think Humphrey says a good range out there. Do you and Colby have weird traditions when you get something? I know people who eat the liver and weird stuff. So we don't eat, like after having my
should we read the question so that these people?
Oh yeah. So one of the guys listening said, do you and Colby have any weird traditions when you get something? I know people who eat the liver and weird stuff. So no, I don't. I don't like textures, and our tradition is more thankful. Like we get the grass or whatever that the animal eats. We get a bundle of it, and then after we're done taking whatever meat we want and we're leaving the kill site, we'll put the vegetation on top of the carcass and give it its last meal, and then thank it for its sacrifice. And that's kind of what we do.
I love that tradition.
Gets me every time, like instantly. I was just like, when I'm picking grass, it like instantly hits me. I'm like, oh,
I know.
Like I was telling Farah that when I go hunting, I really have to separate myself. Like I have to turn off my emotions. And I was reading a book that there's like it's the Vampire Diaries, how there's that switch. That's kind of what I relate it to, is like, I really have to just like flip a switch and I can't think about it. Like I'm doing it.
How doctors or people that work on, what am I trying to say? Like
FBI agents, detectives, stuff like that.
Anything where you're having to work with like animals or kids or, people in that way, like you probably just have to flip switch.
Yeah. So I do. There was a moment during our hunt that that switch flipped back on instantly without me realizing it. Mm-hmm. That one was pretty hard, but like I try to push it back down. And it's not because I don't want to have empathy or anything or compassion for the animal. It's just because I'm doing it for a reason, and it's not to be like an awful person. It's because we need meat, and that's what we need. And like with my Watusi, I thanked it for being able to, like, that meat's going to feed my family for a long time. Like we weren't able to harvest any animals last year, and this is like kind of a saving grace for us. Not that, and I know that sounds weird because we do have grocery stores here. Like we have access to meat, but it's
not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so we get that aoudad all cut up and everything, and we start hiking out, and we end up hiking just straight down the mountain. And I ended up falling, and that last night, like I didn't notice it, but that night I look at my elbow and I'm like, fuck, like I must have fell pretty hard.
Oh my gosh.
Because it's so slick and those rocks. So we took the box canyon. So we went to the other end of the box canyon and took the box canyon out. And we had eland following us. Like I'll name off all the animals that we saw while we were there, but it was really fun. So we had our aoudad, we had the Watusi. Everyone else had killed their animals. The other guys that were with us, they had a ewe, aoudad, 2 rams, and then the guy called his wife, the one that's from Colorado, he called his wife, and his wife ended up telling him that he could shoot whatever he wanted. So he was like, fuck yeah. So he went and shot a wildebeest. So that was pretty cool watching him skin that. But they were out there. Those 2 guys were out there till 1 a.m. cutting up their animals.
Wow.
Where were the guides? Where was the guide? Their guide.
Crazy.
So it was.
Wow.
It was, yeah. So the last day, that night, we find out that we're getting kicked out. We paid for 3.5 days, 4 nights. And I guess they ended up, like, the main guy, Clay, I guess their schedules got mixed up or something like that. So they had another band of hunters. And this is where the hotel came into play. They were trying to find a hotel for their hunters, all this stuff. And so the hunters. Do you think
that's why he was on the phone?
Yeah, that was why he was on the phone all the time. So Stuart ended up telling Colton, and Colton's like, no, it's not my problem. Fix it.
Yeah.
So Stuart's trying to fix it. And then he's in a rock and a hard place with Clay, because Clay's like, no, they need to get their asses out, because the next group of hunters are his high paying hunters. They're the ones that come in and they had stacks of beer in their beds. They were the ones coming to fucking drink and road hunt.
And yeah.
So
that's not cool.
Yeah. So we find out that night that we have to be out of there. So we're javelina hunting our very last day, because we all need our javelinas. And that's when we ended up running into the hunter or the owner, and Clay's telling us that they're vegetarians and that they don't eat meat, but they have this ranch. And it was the weirdest freaking thing ever. And so when we ended up finding I had shot a javelina the night before and my arrow deflected. I was so freaking upset. Like you just see it. I was watching it and it hits this branch and deflects. And then you see the javelina pop up, and I was like, that was so cool. So we ended up not getting them. So this last day, we finally run into a band of them.
Javelinas are crazy looking. They just showed me, so I'll pull them up.
They stink so goddamn bad. Oh my God, they smell so bad.
They look like they would stink.
Yeah, but we ended up finding a band of them, and it was on the main road that the owner would have had to take to get back to his castle. And Clay was just on edge. Like, he wanted us to get it done and put the freaking javelinas in the truck and leave as fast as possible. And we were like, what does it matter? He owns this ranch and he knows that there's hunters on it. Like, yeah. I don't get this.
That's interesting.
But we get out of the truck, and the javelina that I was watching, I stood ready, and I knew that he was going to come up this hillside. And he started coming, and I unleash an arrow, and it goes right over the top of this motherfucker. Like, he kind of like dropped down, and I was like, God fucking damn it. And then Colby ends up hitting him, but his arrow hits it right through the nose. This is where my switch just fucking turned.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you just see the freaking thing shaking its head and squealing, and I'm like, I dropped to my knees, and I was like, I'm fucking done. And Colby thought that he had hit it in a good spot. Like, he wasn't paying attention, and he drops his bow down, and I look at him, and I was like, put another fucking arrow in it. Like, I yelled at him. I'm like, you hit him in the fucking nose. Oh. So he gets another arrow in it, and these suckers are tough.
They're so little too. Well, are they not little? It looks little in the pictures.
They're a good size. They're probably the size of, they're as big as, like, tall as Lily.
Okay.
But fatter.
Okay.
And then Colby's dad shoots one. And funny enough,
I'm showing the YouTube people what they look like.
They're funny. They're like not pigs either. They're rodents.
Yeah, they're like weird looking. They have like a pig nose.
So funny enough, earlier that day, Colby's dad had shot at one, and he could hear the javelina squeal, but couldn't find him. So when we found this band of javelina, Colby's dad shot at one, and it ran. So we find Colby's, and it hid under one of the, like, this big cat's claw bush. And then I walked up, because I at this point, like, I'm sick to my stomach. I'm just like, I was done. I tapped out. And I'm like, I'm going to go look for your dad. So I walked up the hillside a little bit and found Colby's dad and mom, and they were following a blood trail, and his mom was standing back a little ways, and she's like, what if they would have went under those rocks? Because you walk up this, like, draw, and there's, like, a little cliff of rocks on the right-hand side. And all of a sudden she's like, he's in there. And you see the fucking javelina inside the rocks. Like, the hole's about this big.
Wow.
So Colby's dad ended up having to finish it off in this hole.
Yeah.
And the cat's claw is, like, covering the hole. So Colby's, like, kicking the cat's claw out, and, like, had to drag this javelina out of this freaking cave.
Oh my goodness.
So our guide is, like, anxious. He's like, just put it, because we want to gut it right there. But he's like, no, just put it in the back of the truck. Let's leave. So we ended up putting him in the back of the truck, and we go back to the camp, and I'm like, we still have another javelina to kill.
Yeah.
It's noon. Like, are we leaving now? And so we had so much meat to cut. So we get back, and Colton's like, well, let me talk to Stuart. Maybe Stuart will take you out while we're finishing cutting meat, and you can go get your other javelina.
Yeah.
And you see Stuart come back kind of, like, deflated. And Stuart's like, no, you can hunt for javelina on your way out. Mm-hmm. So from about noon or 1 to about 5, we spent cutting meat. We had so much meat to cut.
That's a long time.
And this is another thing I was so, like, grateful that I was able to help, because I helped, like, quarter out the javelina, get the back straps. I skinned my Watusi as much as I could. And then Colby kind of took over after he did the aoudad. Like, there were a bunch of us, and we were just scrambling, cutting all this meat, trying to get it all in the coolers and stuff. And we end up leaving at 5. And as we leave the place, the other hunters are just driving on in.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So did you pay for, like, the full?
So on my tag, I guess they include a javelina, but I'm like, I feel like if I didn't shoot one, I should have gotten more of a discount, but they gave us a little bit of a discount off our tags, not much. But so I don't know how guide services work. Colton told us, like, you tip the guides 10% of your tag. So he gets a pretty good tip when he's on Deseret, because the tags up there are like 18,000 to 20,000 for, like, elk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my tag was a couple thousand. And so I had brought enough money for that much of a tip. Mm-hmm. But I was talking to Colby, and I'm trying to talk to him, and, like, Clay's kind of, like, walking around, and I'm like going like this, like, how much do I tip? And so we ended up giving him not as much as we were anticipating because he didn't do anything. He
sounded
didn't have
like,
a rangefinder. He didn't have a spotting scope.
What?
He didn't carry like a nice backpack, so I'm not sure how he would have gotten meat off the fucking mountain. He didn't cook the dinner. He didn't cut any meat. So
What the? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know much about guides,
No.
but that doesn't sound.
On Deseret, your hunters don't touch the meat. Your hunters don't pack anything.
They do it
Like
all.
the guides do it all. The guides have all the equipment. The guides
Wow.
cook, like they have a cook and everything that they didn't even pack us lunch. So we were gone all day long and we didn't have lunches packed for us.
I don't understand.
So
what's the job of them then? Because it sounds like he
Right?
didn't really
Right. And
help
so,
a whole
and
lot.
I mean, yeah, whatever. So I ended up giving him the bulk of my money. And I was like, here's my money, tips included. And I felt like a jackass because I didn't like shake his hand or I didn't like give him a hug. And I look at Stuart and I give Stuart $100 bill and he looks at me and he's like, oh my God, thank you. And like gives me this big embrace.
Oh,
And I'm giving him a hug and I walk off. And as we get in the car, Colby's mom's like, that was so funny. You gave Clay the money and you give Stuart like this really nice tip and give him a hug and you didn't even give Clay anything. I was like, I didn't mean to be a dick.
yeah.
But
It's hard to hide your emotions at that point.
it was
Yeah.
like, the experience was great. Like I'm not taking that away. Like
Yeah.
no matter if we got kicked out or whatever at the very end, like the experience was great.
Right.
The animals we saw, like
Yeah.
I'll go down this list of animals that we freaking saw. So we saw a bentang and we saw one dead on the side of the road when we were driving into the compound. He was just hanging out and I was like,
What's that?
Go. So all of
Should I
these
Google
are
it?
like, yeah, all of these are horned animals.
Okay.
And I can't really explain, like
They just got horns.
they all have horns. They're all different sizes.
Okay.
So we saw a bentang, an impala, a nilgai. So female nilgais are brown, like they're like a light brown. Male nilgais are black and gray.
Okay.
Like these motherfuckers look like aliens on the mountain. Like they are beautiful.
Really?
And so a big nilgai has like 10-inch horns.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up seeing 2 really good ones.
That's
and I was
awesome.
like, oh man, they're beautiful. We saw 2 different types of zebra. We saw like the regular zebra, like you would see with like the horse's ears and
Mhm.
stuff. And then we saw mountain zebra and they have these like, they look like bear ears. Like if you made a bear ear bigger,
cute.
they're like these cute little round fuzzy things that sit on their head. They're so cute.
How cute.
A gemsbuck. That's one that I want to get next time is a gemsbuck. They're freaking gorgeous. They have these really tall horns. Spiral all the way up. They're beautiful.
Cool.
Of course, the Aoudad, Watusi, and Javelina. We saw a white water buffalo and then a regular water buffalo. Wildebeest, which those fuckers
So
up
cool.
front are up close. They're fucking weird looking.
I bet they are.
We saw eland all over the place. We had a couple of those walking out of the canyon after we had shot the Aoudad. They were kind of following us, but they're all over the place. Scimitars, they're white. So you see these white dots all over the place. And you get up close and they're beautiful. They're white and then they have this like light brown strip that goes around like the back of their shoulders.
Aww.
I want one of those too.
Cute.
You can't take those out of Africa, which sucks. So I would have to shoot it in the state if I wanted it.
That's crazy.
We saw regular tars, which is another one that we want to kill. A kudu. I want a fucking kudu.
They're so cool.
Do you know what they look
Yeah,
like?
yeah.
Oh, they're the most beautiful fucking animals. I was telling Colby that I think a kudu is like the top of my list after seeing one.
Really?
And he's like, not a Nyala. And I'm like, honestly, I think kudus are like even more beautiful than Nyala. They're kind of like the same.
Okay.
Like they kind of look the same. I don't know. We saw white-tailed deer. We saw Carmen white-tailed deer. And then we saw regular mule deer. We saw elk, which was kind of funny. Red sheep. They were on, so the lady's compound, the wife's compound, she has like a area inside her compound for these red sheep. They're like fucking expensive, like thousands of dollars, tens
red?
of thousands of dollars.
They look red.
No,
Oh,
they didn't look red. I don't
I'm
know.
like, I can't picture a red sheep.
A markhor, they're fucking expensive, beautiful as fuck, beautiful. And then skunks, they have like different
Cute.
species of skunks there, and then dove, turkey, and quail.
Awesome.
It was so cool.
So cool.
And we were so close to a bunch of them. And not that they're tame by any means. They're not tame at all. Like they're for sure very wild, free range animals. There is a high fenced ranch on this free range ranch.
Mhm.
The ranch that we were hunting was, I think, like 39,000 acres.
That's so cool.
Which compared to Deseret, I think they said Deseret's like 200 and some thousand acres.
Oh my
so
gosh.
fucking huge. But
wow.
it was a really great experience. But
I'm glad.
we left the ranch and drove to El Paso where we ate really good food, really good Mexican food.
Ooh,
and I look at Colby because he wanted to drive all the way back through home. And I'm like, you know what? I don't think we fucking should. Like, I am so tired. Like, and it's one thing to drive during the day.
Yeah.
But it was going to be nighttime. And I'm like, I don't want to chance it, you know? So we ended up getting a hotel room. And the hotel that everyone else stayed at didn't allow animals, but the one next door did. And she was really sweet. We ended up having to get like a handicap room. And the bathroom was fucking huge. So we're like hauling in this Watusi.
Oh my gosh.
The door to the outside was right by our room. So it was perfect with 4 dogs, the Watusi,
holy shit,
everything. It worked out. So we slept there and then we ended up leaving yesterday at like 7 and drove through, and Brig had the fucking shits all the way home. So he'd sit there and in my face. I'm like, do you have to shit? And we'd get out and he'd like have the runs.
Oh no.
I'm like, well, that's what you get for eating all that fucking meat at and looking up all the blood and shit.
That's so funny and gross.
But yeah, we got home at 11 last night. Ooh. And that's when my irritation started. I wasn't irritated at anybody. It was just because I was so tired. And Colby was out there like unloading some stuff, and I go inside and I'm like thinking in my head, and it's nothing to do with him. Like, it wasn't his fault, but I'm like, motherfucker, you don't have to work tomorrow. I didn't say this out loud. This was all in my head. I'm going to fucking bed. Yeah. So we crawl in bed and I was out and woke up this morning even more ornery. So, but it was fun. It makes me want to do a trip every year, not just to Texas. Texas is fucking awesome, but not just to Texas. Like, I want to go to Alaska and Hawaii. Like, I want to hunt axis deer, and they have axis deer in Texas too on some of those ranches. But
so cool. So, how much did you pay, if you don't mind me asking?
My tag was $3,700.
So that's not too bad.
And so the Aoudad. So the reason why we ended up doing this too is Colby's dad really wants to shoot a sheep, and it's gotten to a point where sheep are so expensive and the tags are so hard to draw that in your lifetime, you may never be able to get the opportunity. And it's like 40,000 upward for sheep tags. Ugh. And so we had this opportunity to go, and we were talking about the tag prices, and my tag price was more expensive than the Aoudad, which I thought was pretty crazy. But that was one of the main reasons. So when Colton invited us, we invited his parents, and it was a great experience. I'm really happy for Colby's dad to be able to get his sheep.
That's awesome for him.
So
very cool. Yay.
It was fun. I loved it.
I'm excited to see that thing hanging. They can't figure out where to put it because it doesn't fit anywhere. And her house has huge, tall ceilings too. So
I wanted to put it above my bed, but from my bed frame to the ceiling, so the the Watusi from the nose to the tips of the horn, I think, are 47 inches. That's insane. And I think from the bed frame to the top of the wall is only maybe 2.5 feet. Yeah. So I'm like, no, doesn't fit.
Yeah. It'll be so pretty though once you get it Euroed and put up there.
The rug's going to be
the rug beautiful.
I
was just looking at that. It's so beautiful. It's going to be an amazing rug.
Yeah. And like I was telling Farrah, it's about as big as like a king comforter. Like it's
so crazy.
It's huge.
I'm excited for
that. It was such a fun experience. Like I want to do it every year. It'll be the plan. Adventures every year.
Yeah, that's super, super exciting. I want to do something like that too, but I don't want to see it. Mm-hmm. I just want to go and be part of it, but not have to watch the kill shots. I'm such a baby bitch with stuff like that.
I'm like, I love hunting with not that I'm like a experienced hunter by any means. And I haven't killed, like I've killed a couple things with my rifle, like big game animals. So I'm still new on both sides. Like, but Colby comes up to me and he's like on the mountain. He's like, you could fucking out hunt these guides any day. And I'm like, I know. I'm like, my intuition like keeps kicking in on some of these things. Cause we were hiking up this draw and we look over on the other side and we're like, there's no cat call over there. So why the fuck are we hiking over here? I don't
understand that guy at all. Like he sounds like he was just very lazy about it all.
But we were talking about hunting like New Zealand for tart. And he's like, that would be the boomstick hunt. Cause I told him like, I don't want to hunt anything with rifles really. Like I just don't want to really. Cause I like the intimacy of being super close.
Right.
But he was talking about tar in New Zealand. And I'm like, no, that would be a boomstick. Like that would for sure be a boomstick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you had fun, but I missed you.
Missed you.
I went and got a tattoo on Friday and I was like, with this artist, I've never been there without Alex. So I'm like, what do I do? Like,
what do I do with my
like,
hands?
because you guys knew him way before I did, but it was fine. But it was so painful. Oh my gosh.
That I could just imagine, especially right in there.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, I got a new tattoo. That was what I did this weekend.
I love it. It's so cute.
It's my stepson Karsten. So my whole thing is like he's been in my life since he was 5. And I had my picture of Dusty. I'm like, I need one of him. And this is like how I see him.
Yeah.
Just out by that's what he does. He fishes all the days and he probably always will. So anyway, it was awesome.
It's
but
beautiful.
It was so painful. It was like the worst spot I've ever had. Just like on that inner elbow like area is tender. It was only, I would say maybe an hour and a half. It wasn't too long.
Good.
So yeah. And then what else did I do? That's pretty much
Packed and moved. And you were saying that you don't have Wi-Fi. I was listening to your box this morning.
My internet's gone. Something happened. Like I have no idea. So this morning I was trying to get work done, trying to get things done. I couldn't do it. My freaking hotspot wasn't working. So lots of issues there. I'm trying to think. Nothing else really. Like I was a lazy bum the whole week. Well, I wasn't lazy. I just feel like, well, I worked a little bit, did some real estate. I was doing some dietitian stuff this morning. And yeah, so I don't really have a whole lot to.
I tried doing school on the way there. It was pissing me off because I would start those real estate videos and then it would stop. And then it would start and then it would stop. And so I couldn't like get any of the information because they'd say a couple words and then it would stop. And so one of the freaking quizzes, it took me 5 times to get a passing grade because I'm like,
I don't know.
How hard is this? Like, it shouldn't be that hard.
Right.
All the quizzes have been so easy, but for this one,
you couldn't watch it. Yeah.
I honestly think it's not right. Like, I don't think that quiz is correct. Yeah. So I'm blaming it on
You're like, it's the quiz.
It is. I'm like, no, this is not correct.
So, and now you have your elimination diet that you're starting.
Yeah, so I'm going to do my first vlog. I haven't done that yet, but I'm going to do that on my, I feel like shit today. We ate the reason why I didn't start early is because
you can't start on your trip.
Yeah. Oh, no. I was going to tell you, they have these things called Aussie Bites. Have you ever seen those at like Costco?
I've heard of them. Yeah.
I can eat those. Minus the sugar and stuff that's in it. I can make them myself, but they have like chia seeds and dates and
yummy
flaxseed and like all the like I was reading the instructions, the ingredients, and I was like, I can. So I ate a bunch of those on the trip, which was really good because we needed all the energy. But no, we had Cold Stone last night. I was like, this is the last round. We had pizza, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. Like I'm literally gonna be dead.
She's like, I'm gonna die right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so starting today, elimination diet.
Yeah.
No coffee. I'm drinking green tea.
That's awful. I told Alex I'd do it with her, but I have to drink coffee. I know. I just won't tell you about it.
I woke up this morning. I'm like, I'm hungry as fuck and I can't drink my coffee. God damn it.
It's just like I was telling Lacey, I'm like, it's just the habit of like waking up and having something warm. So maybe I could do tea, but I just
like the smell of coffee.
Yeah. It's like the homey, like, I don't know. It's just a good smell.
Yeah.
So yeah. What else? I don't think that's all I have to report really. Oh, I won that contest.
Yeah. Farrah won. She got her $5,000 big check.
I did. Yeah. And it was a huge check. I know.
I finally get service and I see it and I was like, motherfucker. I was like, she won. She didn't tell me.
I did, but you didn't have service. But yeah, I know. I didn't expect to. I didn't get to tell you the story.
You blew him fucking out of the water.
I didn't expect to. Like so they wrote me and said, you placed top 3. Can you come down tomorrow? And I was like, did I place 3rd? And he's like, you placed in between 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I was like, or he's like somewhere in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. I was like, motherfucker, he's gonna make me come down there and find out.
You're gonna try to fucking Sandy.
Yeah. So then I went down there and they didn't make a big deal out of it at all. Like I walked in and there was like the one girl that's always there. And I kind of just sat down. I was like on my phone. I felt like I was there for like 10 minutes, maybe. Nobody said anything to me. People were just in and out. That's my mommy. I love that tattoo. Never lazy, no coffee, no Bethy. Yeah. My parents like literally live on coffee. So there's no way.
I want to live on coffee.
I know. Maybe you can reintroduce it.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I get there and I'm like just sitting there and nobody's saying anything to me. And then all of a sudden they come from the back and I see this huge check and I see my name and I was like, and I had a mask on and I was like, no fucking way. I just like yelled that. But I was telling us, I was like, I don't feel like I had like a big reaction because I was literally shocked. Like I just the way they did it, they completely like shocked me. I was like, so I didn't know what to do. So I wasn't like freaking out or jumping up and down. I was just like, no fucking way. And I had a mask on. So I'm like, they probably couldn't even see my reaction, but I was excited because I didn't expect it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing is I feel like I do this every year. Like I take the holidays off and then I'm like, all right, it's time to get in shape for spring or summer. So I've just never tracked it like that before. So I'm like, I do this all the time. Like, why have I ever?
It's like I should be winning $5,000 all the time.
I was like, why the fuck have I ever competed on stage when I'm like, I can just get $5,000? But yeah, no, I was shocked. So yeah.
That's
anyway,
so awesome.
I'm excited.
When do you get your money?
I don't know. And when do I get it? I got it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I finally got it. But I just don't know what I'm going to do with it because I didn't anticipate it. It was one of those things where I'm like, I'm not going to anticipate having it because, then I'll get sad if I don't get it. So anyway.
Oh, what you should do. So I put in my first investment to Bitcoin.
You did? I am so terrified. But everybody is saying do it. Yeah, everybody's saying do it.
Yeah, so now I'm going to just use my Cash App, and anything that goes in my Cash App, I'm just going to transfer to Bitcoin.
That's probably a good idea.
You should put your $5,000 into Bitcoin.
That's a lot. I'm so
But you didn't anticipate it. So if you put it away, you'd be like, I didn't even know it was there.
Another thing is floors, like decided to do the vinyl planking instead of carpet. So I'm like, I think it's money I didn't plan on having. So
that'd be good.
But yeah, that Bitcoin thing, I've been reading more about that. That kind of thing scares me. You guys will have to chime in and give us feedback on what you think about that.
It scares me too with it being cryptocurrency, but Colby and I were talking, like, you should talk to Chris about it. I should have texted you and be like, talk to Chris about Bitcoin because he knows a lot about it. He invests in it. But
cool. I didn't know that.
Colby has been reading a little bit about it, and we were talking about it on the drive, and I don't want Credit Karma. I want Cash App. But Colby has invested in a little bit in it too. He's like, I'm up to $60 now. I'm like, look at you. But it's scary because at any moment in time that could go away because it's all crypto. It's not tangible.
That's what I don't like.
But you don't have any penalties cashing out. It's money. Like,
yeah.
I set it all up on here to where.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's your $20 from you. So I set it up all on here that I can deposit and transfer now through my Cash App. So if I win anything if I win anything,
yeah.
Oh, look. Oh, I'm down. I'm down.
So Dustin does all the stocks and stuff too. And
well, this is cool too, because you can, within here, you can pay, like you can put money into individual stocks. Like you can buy into individual stocks, whatever one that you want, transfer your money around. Like Apple, you can buy into it. And
that's crazy.
Like I do want to read more into it, but
what's that app?
A Cash App.
Oh, it's Cash App. Okay.
So I was last night, there's two people that are on our, not two people, but two Instagram pages that are on our Finesse. Like if you go into the stories, and they're about business. And I was like, it was super motivating to me because I shared a whole bunch to my story on my Instagram page.
Oh, I saw them. I saw them this morning.
Yeah, I was talking about like investing and being a millionaire. And like, I wish I would have read this stuff, because my goal was to be a millionaire by the time I was 30, but I didn't know how to invest. Like, I didn't know how to do this type of stuff. And now that I have money available to be able to do that, like I am investing now and I am starting businesses, and they're like 1 in 9 or 1 in 7 businesses fail, and you need to have 7 under your belt. So that means you need to start like 63 businesses in your lifetime to have 7 flourishing businesses, or like there's a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm like, you know what? By the time I'm 40, this is going to happen. Yeah. Like come hell or high water, it's going to happen. It's just, I need to now start investing.
You need to take the steps to get there for sure. Yeah.
But that page, those 2 pages, I was like, motivated.
We'll have to link the pages on that and give them a shout out. Yeah. Okay. So we have a giveaway, you guys. So we have a beautiful photo shoot with Alex. So she's the one, I know I've said this a bunch of times, but if you haven't seen, she's the one that's taken, if you go look at our Instagram, the Finesseology Podcast, you'll see like all of the most recent pictures I've been posting. She took those. She's taken WBFF pictures for me. She is just freaking amazing. And she's got this like feminine energy.
I saw she took maternity pictures.
I didn't see.
Yeah, she posted them.
I saw she posted our friend Stephanie's 30th birthday photos. You have to go look. They're super, super cute.
Which Stephanie?
Stephanie, she Gomez. She goes, she went to Snap.
Like there's a couple.
I know, we know there's so many Stephanies. But yeah, they're super cute pictures.
Oh, cute. I'll have to look.
But anyway, so she's really good. She's amazing. She doesn't do family pictures. That's not her jam. But she does like portraits, boudoir. She's even done fitness photos with me. She says she does everything except for newborn stuff.
Newborn and like the standard family pictures.
And family pictures. So yeah. So are you ready? We're going to draw. So everybody that shared, commented, tagged
They're
people.
all, I don't know if you can see that because it's white on white, but they're all in there.
There's a bunch of pieces of papers in there with names on them. So are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Drum roll.
Go for it.
Do you know how to drum roll? Okay. I'm scared. Why am I scared?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh. It's Kratos. Can you even read it?
Oh, nice.
And I think he's watching. Congratulations. You got your
Congratulations.
Dude War photo shoot.
We need to see this Dude War.
I don't know how
You
to
have to
say
share
your
it.
name. How do you say your last name? Kratos.
Is that his real name?
I don't know.
Or is that just a Asclepius?
I think it's his real name because that's what it is on Instagram.
Congrats.
He's one of our faithful podcast listeners. So congratulations. You're getting yourself a Dude War photo shoot.
Woo, woo.
Awesome. Yay. Thanks, guys. We're going to have to do giveaways more often, I think. Like maybe like once a month or something like that, where we can just coordinate with people and do a fun giveaway.
So do you want to go into what we're going to be talking about next week?
Yeah.
We wanted to do it this week, but I feel like Pharaoh is saying that it's a really important topic. Like I
need more time. I need more time to figure this out. So maybe some people that have known me for a long time have noticed I'm at this like weird like crisis with my two careers because I've always done fitness and bodybuilding and I've always participated in it. I've had stuff with my body my whole life, like negative things, positive things. And recently Dusty's been, so she's 6 and she's starting to become aware of those things with herself. And she had made a comment to me recently that maybe it wouldn't alarm a lot of people, but it alarmed me because it sit really heavy with how I've felt and viewed myself.
Well, it's personal because you've been there.
Yeah.
And you just never wanted it.
Yeah.
For her,
I've since the second I've realized I was going to have a girl, I was like, I'm going to do everything I can. And I think all moms do this. My mom's watching. My mom's freaking gone through this with me. Like, I think we all want to protect our kids like to the best. And we always want them to have a different life than we had. I think that's the most common thing. And we want to teach them things from our mistakes. And so when she made a comment about her body that just like fucking rocked me. And it was just a normal, like little girl, I guess a girl comment about her body. And I was like, no, you're 6. Like, no, this can't be happening. So I kind of had this meltdown. I called my mom, I called Alex, and I was just like, talking to Dustin about it. And Dustin is funny because, and I think men in general, and not all men, there's men that struggle with this, but I feel like men don't have the pressures that we have growing up. And not all, but a lot of them don't have the body struggles and just the like pressure that I feel like society has like put on us as women that we've had since the second we were freaking little girls. Like the second we, we're taught to be pretty and clean and have our makeup and eat certain things and be healthy. And so it's just like a tremendous pressure from the beginning. But then when you, like in my example, my mom was always fit and focused on that kind of thing. And so you grow up with it too. It can go a couple different ways. And I've obviously that's like what Dusty's been born into. She was at the gym every day of her freaking life, like playing with me and coming with me while I work out. She's seen me food prep time and time again. Like that's been my world, And so it just kind of hit me. And I was like, I don't want to put that emphasis on her anymore. So I've been like researching it more. And anyway, I decided I don't want to compete anymore. And it's not because I'm still going to work out, I'm still going to live my life. I'm going to be who I am because it makes me happy. But I feel like the competing aspect of it can be really hard. And I think that, it's all consuming, even with people like us that have done it a lot of times. Like I still think there's an element of like, you have to pose every day.
Yeah.
It consumes you. And I'm like, I don't want to put that much emphasis on that anymore. And then set that example for her. And I used to think it was so cute that she wanted to go on stage and stuff. And which if she ever wanted to, fine, like I'd back her 100%. But I'm like, I don't want her to feel like that pressure that she needs to have that unrealistic expectation. So I've decided, I'm not going to do that anymore. And even like this last competition, I just did that little 6-week thing that we did. I didn't say a word of it to her. She had no clue I did it. There was not a change in anything that I usually do. I didn't talk about it. I didn't say I can't eat that. I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to keep it away from her so she doesn't see that. Mm-hmm. So that's like my goal. So we're going to kind of talk about that more. We both have girls. And I think it's just something that we haven't really talked about. And I had this like just food for thought. We can kind of, survey or like talk to people about, and I did survey some people, like if there was any negative feedback or anything that they've received from their kids with like being into fitness or being at the gym every day or, you know, like eating a certain way. And I am an idiot and I didn't save them.
Oh no.
Yeah. Cause on Instagram, if you don't save them, they disappear. But I do have a few that I remember. And one of them was, I think it was like an 11 or 12-year-old, wants to exercise all the time and is obsessed with fitness already. And she said it makes sense because she's always been that way. So like her little girl is now doing the same things and feeling like she is always having to do that. So, and I feel like that's what happens a lot of the times. Another one is my daughter struggles with me going to the gym daily, but I expressed to her that it's my me time. So like I said, this is paraphrased. I do remember that one because that one stood out to me. Have you ever had any like crap from going to the gym probably not from your girls, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I've had some, like when I drop them off to my mom's house and I'm like, I'm going to go to the gym and they're like, no, I want to go with you. Yeah. And I'm like, well, no, you can't go because I've let them go a couple times. But it's never been like a big issue. Yeah.
And I think with exercise, it's a little different. Like I think setting an example to exercise and be healthy is like a great thing. Mm-hmm. It's just that obsessive, compulsive. And then other people were saying it was like a really positive experience for their kids to see that they were getting into fitness and health. So I think there's definitely like a huge positive aspect of it. But I think once it gets to like the competition and it can be a little bit overkill and nobody intends for that, right? Yeah. Like we never intend to have our kids like negatively impacted by our passions. Like that's the last thing we want.
Well, and where Dusty is already like predisposed, where it kind of is ran in your family with your mom and you, and it sounds like a little bit with your dad, but he never really vocalized it. Yeah. And I mean, I think even just how society's ran, I feel like the older that we get or the different ways that society is, like your perception of what people should look like is stronger. Mm-hmm. Granted, I don't think that 6 years old, they really recognize that, but right. I think just her predisposition is.
Plus she has like that personality where she gets fixated on things and she worries about things. So that's also another, like, I feel like a precursor to a potential eating disorder down the road. So, and I would never say that to her or because I don't want that to be in her head. But, you know, there's just some things that I recognize with her where I'm like hypersensitive to it, where I'm like, oh, like I don't want her to deal with that, you know, if I can help it. So I guess like what we're going to end up talking about is if you notice your kids internalize your fitness or dieting habits. And then we're going to talk about body positive and like the importance that it has like for us to be body positive about ourselves to show our kids. It's interesting because I've been like, listening to lectures and like researching this because this is part of the registered dietitian is like kids nutrition, which is like so interesting. But a big emphasis they put on it is like, don't even talk about things like, oh, I shouldn't eat that. Or, you know, I should be choosing vegetables instead of bacon. Like they talk about not even like going there and talking about like putting those things out there because then it causes guilt for them when they even have a little bit of it. But that's so we'll talk about in the next podcast, but I have such a like mixed feelings about, I do want my child to be educated on nutritiously dense things, but I also don't want her obsessing.
So I think it goes around like, instead of saying, oh, you shouldn't eat that, be like, well, you have an option to eat bacon, mm-hmm. which will make you feel this way, or you can eat this and you can feel this way, but you can't eat a ton of this.
Yeah.
Because it'll make you feel not so good, but you can eat a ton of this, like more like approaching it like you can have these, but these are what the consequences are going to be when you eat these.
Right. And I think that like that's the hard line to draw because I think every kid's going to be different and respond differently to things like that. And so,
well, and I think with my girls, like they're noticing the ramifications of when they eat a lot of sugar. Like I think they're finally realizing that, oh, I can't poop. Yeah. Oh, my belly hurts. oh, I have a headache. Like they're finally realizing. And so we've pushed it to where they can only have treats like that after lunch.
Yeah.
Because morning's too early and nighttime's too late.
Yeah.
Like lunchtime is the only time you get to have a treat like that. Because you're going to get hyper. Your belly's going to hurt. You're going to have these problems.
Yeah. I'll have to I'll share a whole bunch of like different dietitian like aspects of this. It's so interesting because it fights everything I've ever known about everything. Yeah. So to me, I'm like, this is like learning. I was telling Dustin this morning, I'm like, this is like learning a new language, like that I don't understand at all. Mm-hmm. Because to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is what I've lived my whole life, so it's just such a huge thing for me, like to make this transition. But yeah. And I think that most people with girls and some with boys, like some boys will find this, like run into this at one point. Usually it's when they're older, but 6
years old, you wouldn't think that they'd understand.
Something that I read too is that most of the time we aren't, 5 years to 8 years old is when children hear and start to internalize the most their moms talking about their own weight and the way that their moms look. That was one thing. And then internalizing like fitness and dieting and stuff, that starts to develop within that age. And then I guess from the ages 3 to 5, kids realize that fat is bad. Like you don't want to be fat. Like that's not something that they want. Is in between 3 to 5 with girls. Like that's like the standard when they start to make that connection.
I'm trying to think with the Sailor.
I feel like Dusty, it was more recent where she started getting nervous or like noticing when people are overweight and stuff. And I always try to tell her every body is beautiful. It doesn't matter. Like people can still be fat or be big and still be beautiful. And like, I'm trying to teach her that fat isn't bad.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach her that, but it's hard because that's our society and that's our culture. And obviously she sees everything I've done. So it's like, it's so hard. But anyway, we're going to go into that on the next podcast and kind of talk more about that. And you guys will have to give us feedback if you've run into any of that or have struggled with it yourself. And yeah.
It's
craziness.
Just makes parenting one step harder.
It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to learn how to parent. I'm telling you, like it's the worst, but the best.
I'm starting to feel a little bit better though, because the more I talk about the type of mom I am, the more I feel better because like I've internalized a lot of it because I was telling Colby, I'm like, I'm not like this typical mom that lives in Utah. Like I don't like kids. I'm not a kids person. I have very little patience, but the more I communicate it and say it out loud, and I'm like, you know what, that's just who I am. And my kids will still survive.
Right. And that's the thing is like, that's another thing. We should do like a follow-up to mom guilt because it is such a crazy thing. Like that's actually what my affirmation is going to be about today, because I am so fucking hard on myself. Like, especially when like the dieting, the nutrition, like the self-image stuff, like what I've put out on social media the past 10 years, all that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to ruin my daughter's life. And I'll lay awake at night and just like, it makes me sick to my stomach. And I'm like, and then I try to like think about it logically. I'm like, really, Farrah, like chill, you're fine. You've just enjoyed the past 10 years of your life in fitness. You've learned a lot from it. And now it's just time to rein it in a little bit. So, I don't know. It's just this back and forth thing, but I'm so hard on myself.
Yeah. Stop being
and you're so hard on yourself
too.
So yeah.
I know, but I'm just going to tell you to stop being so hard on yourself.
I know. And I'll tell you, and then hopefully we'll listen to each other. But yeah, I know it's craziness, but I am excited to talk about it kind of, sort of, and do all the research.
I'd be curious to see like if a lot of people, like a lot of moms and dads are noticing that within their child and at what age they've noticed it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even have to be fitness. It could really be anything, like anything that's hardcore that you push your body. Like if your children are seeing you push your body through certain things that could potentially be harmful.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't even need to be competing.
Or maybe even not just bodies, like maybe like things in general, like passions in general, like
video games,
like hunting, other things that you get obsessive and passionate about that like kind of take over a lot of your life. I wonder how that
like,
impacts your kids.
Like porn, for example, like if a dad or a mom are addicted to porn, do their children ever exhibit those same behaviors, even if it's not been learned or watched?
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like so much of what we do, our kids are sponges. So I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I do think my my mom said something that really sat with me because I had told her what Dusty told me, like about her body. And my mom was like, at least she told you. Because I never told my mom. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't communicate that. I didn't go to her and say, hey, mom, I'm like, I mean, of course I'd be like, oh, I'm so fat, you know, and I'd make those comments. But I feel like, especially like us growing up, that was kind of normal. Like, all women said that about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
All women were like, and there's exceptions to rules, but pretty much everybody I knew was there was a female was thinking about their weight. Every mom I knew of my friends' moms had diet pills, had some kind of dieting something or other, you know. There was very few moms that were out there out of my friends that didn't. And so I think that was just kind of a normal thing. But yeah, my mom said that was huge to me, where she's like, at least she told you. And you said it too. You were like, it's good that she's talking to you. And
that's one thing you'll always have with her, I believe, because she's so open and she feels like she has to express how she feels.
mm-hmm.
That I think that's a blessing that you will always have that with her.
Yeah, she's very outwardly honest. Like, she'll tell me if she has a bad thought, if she has a mean thought or whatnot. And it's been hard to not be like, you don't have to share that, because I don't want to hush her. But at the same time, I'm like, sometimes you don't need to say anything, you know. But with that situation, I am grateful that she can talk to me about it and, you know, and tell me how she's feeling. But it's tricky.
It is.
It's tricky.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're done. So thank you guys so much. We're going to try to do...
Oh,
I'm tricky.
Thanks, Mom.
Tricky Dave.
Your mom put, you're both great moms. You will have mom guilt your entire life. It's so true. No matter what you do, you'll always have some sort of guilt.
I always tell you how my mom's so hard on herself, like with all of us. And I'm like, Mom, whatever, you were great. Stop. But it's just real. So,
yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much.
You.
Give us ideas on what kind of giveaways you like. And congratulations again to Kratos on his win.
Yeah.
And thank you all for entering.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye. Okay.
This is Alex.
Plug it in this.